All right, welcome to another edition of Tactical Thursday. We are going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to go through tactical phases. And here's a little bit of an overview that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about being in possession, that transition from attacking to defending. Then the next phase would be when we are defending or when we're out of possession. And then that transition from defending to attacking. Those are kind of the four main stages of the game. And then the fifth one, which sometimes gets overlooked, are set pieces, which are another tactical phase. So we're going to go through this real quick on the board. So hopefully this kind of gives us a little bit of an overview. But as we get over here to our tactical board, we'll talk about being in possession and what that phase means. So when we have it, the tactical cues that kind of go into being in possession and in the different type of phases. So when we first get the ball and in attack, the first thing we probably want to look to do is counter. So if the red team wins the ball here, the first time, as soon as they win it from a blue, they step in and they take the ball and they move the ball forward. The first thing they want to do is see if we can counterattack. And then we just go through our phases of the game, just like we covered last week. Was as soon as we get it, can we score? Can we pass it to someone who can score? Can we go ahead and break a line? Can we take the space? Can we switch a lane? Or can we go ahead and keep possession? That would be number 6. But our first thing when we win the ball is definitely going to be about whether we can counter. All right. The second kind of phase, or the second kind of tactical discussion we will have, is if we just win the ball, how do we beat a counter press? So we're tight. This player is dribbling maybe down the wing, and we take the ball from her. What happens if blue is so organized, and my table is not exactly square? If blue gets super organized and they decide to press right away, and they're trying to counter press. How do we go ahead and counter that? Or how do we play through it so we can go ahead and get the ball out of this phase and out of this area and move it down the field towards the goal in which we want to score? A lot of different things we can do with that. Different ways we can do that. So that's kind of beating the press. The next phase that we would talk about would be our favorite with our team is having to beat a block. So if the blue team is here defending really deep, which we see sometimes from time to time with teams we play, and how do we defeat this? How do we come up with a tactical plan to go ahead and try and create chances when a team is playing so deep that they're in a block set? How do we create space? How do we find ways to go ahead and get to our first thing where we're creating chances and we're finishing chances and we're breaking lines and things like that? So that would be the next phase that we would talk about, or the next point when we're talking about in possession. And the last one we're going to talk about, or the last phase we would talk, would be playing in D. So we're in this D quadrant of the field. How do we do different things in D to go ahead and to create those kind of chances? So those in the block kind of set up a little the same, but at the same time, a little bit of different point. The next thing is going to be, how do we transition into defending? So a couple different things in that, and we've talked about that a little bit last week as well. But counter pressing, or when we're getting into a man shape and we're trying to get into green, or recovery into a shape, which is zone, or getting into yellow. So say we're building here, the red team is building, and they lose the ball here. They try and play a pass and it's intercepted. So we're in a phase here. Can we get to a point that we can get pressure on the ball directly, immediately, so we can counter press and win the ball back really, really quickly? All right? Can we get pressure on the ball? Can we deny it going forward? Can we kind of force it one direction or the other? Or can we just making sure that we can get pressure on the ball? So very, very important. If we can't get pressure on the ball, which maybe the ball is won here and they've got a player they're in a little bit more of an attacking shape. So we're not playing against a couple teams I won't mention at the moment. And maybe this is a scenario we wanted to get into yellow because we can't get pressure on the ball. This person's got a decision, but she can't get pressure on the ball or deny it going forward. But she can't get to that spot before the ball can be played behind her. So she's got to be a little bit smarter and drop back in. And maybe this is a scenario now we can't get pressure on it. So maybe we're getting back into a shape. And we'll talk about being in different shapes, sometimes defensively. Maybe we want to defend with a back four. Maybe we're defending with a back three. Maybe we're talking about playing in a 3-5-2. Or maybe we're talking about two holding mids and getting into a really kind of compact block. But it's all going to be on that first decision. Can we get pressure on the ball? So real important. So we're making that decision into, can we get into green? Can we get pressure and counter press right away? If we can't, then we're going to go ahead and drop into yellow and go ahead and get into a shape and look a little bit more into zone. Okay. So we're just defending. And what happens when we go ahead? So now we are defending. We made that choice between being in green, bringing in yellow, and now we really need to decide. All right, how we're going to organize ourselves tactically when that transition moment's over. That 3 or 4 seconds when it went from us being in possession to us losing it. Now we're in this defensive phase. And how do we organize ourselves here? Right now, we're in a lot more of a yellow or a zone block. And now how do we organize ourselves to get pressure on the ball, force one way, and deny it going forward? How can we collectively do that as a red unit here? And that's kind of something that we're going to talk about, or something that we do talk about. And then that final thing that we haven't really touched on yet, what happens if now, take it from the blue team perspective. All right. Oh, no, let's take it from the red. This makes it a little easier. They play a ball in behind, a great pass in here that she's on side and she runs in. Now this is a scenario we call red. So we're in a red perspective here. So that means everybody is trying to do everything they can to bust their butts back and try and get pressure on the ball and deny it from going forward. All right. This is that transition phase. I think we showed that really great clip from Leeds United, what recovery looks like. And it ended up being a through ball, ended up looking like this scenario, which was amazing just to watch the recovery of that team getting back. So that's what we would call red when they get into this area in here, or especially here, and we're not able to keep it from going forward. That means everybody's getting back to make that happen. We want to protect our goalkeeper, make it a little bit easier on her, and get back and make sure we're not giving up a goal scoring opportunity. Then if we're in this scenario here, now we get into that next phase, which is transition back into attack. Okay, so the blue team's gotten up a little bit. We've recovered. Blue now is trying to get numbers forward, trying to get around the ball. They're trying to create a chance. And all of a sudden, our great tracking has won the ball back. And now we're in that what we started with. Now, all right, now can we counter? Very first thing, can we play to someone who can finish? I mean, can we play that ball in? Can we go ahead and see whether or not we can play maybe a checking player in here just to get the ball forward and get it in behind? And then get numbers forward, just like we just got numbers back in that counter-attacking kind of form. And if we can't do that, if we can't get the finish, can't get the pass to somebody who can finish, can't break the line, how do we organize ourselves tactically to keep possession here? Oh, now we've just won it back. Now they're counter press. We cannot play forward, even though we look like she's wide open, but a great job of defending here, using that cover shadow, keeping that ball from getting played. So how do we go ahead and build it back out to then we can go ahead and ball retention? So we don't give it away. We just work so hard to win it to make sure we don't give it away there. The final kind of areas that we talk about as far as tactical phases are set pieces. And believe it or not, the thing we cover most are the most set pieces that occur usually in games or matches or throw-ins and goal kicks. And that goal kicks we kind of put into free kick scenarios. And then you've got some set pieces, maybe attacking wise, you've got some free kicks. And of course we've got corners, and it's both offensively and defensively. So there's a lot going on there with set pieces. So if we kind of go back and think about it again, so there's the 5 tactical phases. Go over it real quick. We've seen it before. We're showing you again. In possession, transition to defending, out of possession, transition to attack, and then set pieces. But hopefully give it a little verbiage and hopefully a little bit of get that brain moving a little bit and thinking about the game. And always looking forward to comments and thoughts. Good to hear from you guys on this, and look forward to seeing you next week. All right, thanks. Take care.